this one, this is how to teach your horse to lay down. And if you've and I recommend teaching your horse to bow and then lay down because it's just much easier. So I'd go watch the bowing tutorial first. So same thing, you're gonna need treats and a halter or bridle, doesn't matter, on your horse. And then I'll show you guys. And same way, you can use my method or you can use anybody else's, it doesn't really matter. There's lots of ways to get them to bow and lay down. So you're welcome to use my method or parts of it or whatever you want to do. Okay. Come. Whoa. Oh, he's already anticipating. Okay. So the way I get him to lay down, stop. Stop. The way I get him to lay down is I ask him to bow, and then I push right here, and then he usually goes down. Bow. Bow. Thank you. Very good. Lay. 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 There you go. Keep going. All the way. Good boy. And then I usually let him lay all the way down. And then I can make him come back up. So, lay over. Lay over. Lay over. Good boy. And if your horse is nervous, up. Right there. You can always sit on them. That helps them a little bit. So you can come over here and sit right by where you usually put the saddle. And then you can just pet him, rub him, but don't let him get up right away. Try to make him stay down for a little bit. Oh, good. And he just wants to roll and sunbathe. You can tell. Hey, up. Up, up, one more. Oh. And that's how you make them lay. And you can also do that with ropes too. He was originally taught with ropes, but as you can see, he does it with nothing now and loves it. Quit. And so if you would do it with ropes, and believe me, this doesn't hurt them. I've had lots of people say it hurts them, but horses are actually pretty tough. They're not delicate little creatures. You loop it around this foot, or the foot you want them to bow on. Or you can just use a lead rope or something like that. You flip it over the side, like this. And then, oops, you can ask him to lift this foot. Whoa. And then you ask him to bow. And then ask him to lay. And then once they come down, you let it off and just pet them and rub them. Good boy. And you can ask him to come up. Good boy. And then that's it. And believe me, it doesn't hurt him. Up, up. It just it's actually almost a little bit more safe. If your horse is wanting to flare out a little bit or anything like that, you can just hold the rope and say, stay down here, you know, it's okay. And pet him and rub him, make sure you say good boy, anything like that. And that's how to teach your horse to bow. Please subscribe, comment what you think, and like us. Thanks.
This one is your frictions, which is like your crossfiber friction. So whereas your crossfiber friction was going against the muscle, frictions is like crossfiber friction on speed. So you do it in an area where you do have some spasming, just to over-aggravate it in order to get the nerves to relax. So you can see how they're relaxed now, and now it's not spasming as much. So that's where you use frictions. So you wouldn't do it unless you did have spasm or something like that. Then we have deep direct pressure, which is when you might find a knot or something. So you can either do braced fingers, where you hold, you can do a thumb, you can do sort of the palm of your hand, and you're just going to hold that spot until you feel the tissue relax underneath your hand. So if you're holding it for 3 minutes, then you're holding it for 3 minutes. So that's just and so the pressure's going down onto the body. Then we have our gliding and stretching. So with these ones, they're good for areas where the horse might be spasming or fasciculating and it's too sore to do the other techniques. So the first thing you want to do is you want to sink into the tissue. So for about 30 seconds you just want to hold till the tissue relaxes underneath and you've sunk through. Then when it's relaxed, you want to gently glide out the area really slowly. So slowly moving along. I'm moving so that you can see me moving, but I'm actually moving as well. My hand needs to just stay there. So I'm pushing all my pressure that way and my hand isn't going anywhere. So for me to get it to move, I'm actually having to lift it a bit. So in that case, you know, if that was the horse you were working on, just stay there. So similar to gliding, we also have stretching. So that's where you can either do it across or like that, and you just want to sink the same. And then once you've sunk, you want to go apart. So same, it's really slowly, you're stretching the tissues out. So it might not look like I'm moving, but this hand is moving. Yep. So you're stretching it out. So you can see as I've come that I have moved. Yep. So it's just really slow. And it's just like, I think I had a massage where they do that to you, like on your shoulder blades.
I did that to the kids.
Yeah, it's nice.
I did the MFR one.
And then the last one that people struggle with is your flicking. So first thing you want to do, so we only do this in areas where we find a spasm or some fasciculation. So you want to get your thumbs together across, and first thing you want to do is 2 strokes and then a flick. So the 2 strokes is really important because that just preps the area. So 2 strokes first. You really only want to do it where you've got bone to rest on. Somewhere, if we do it in like nice glutes, you might break your thumbs. So 1, 2, yep.
balanço o bumbum ou você prefere que eu te beije a noite inteira? Quero dançar, eu vou descer.
Vòng tôi dành cho sự lăng mờ mê. Về lúc rong chân ấy sắp khơi mong về. Tại thiên thiên tiền thì không để đi. Chồng tiền tai râm, hàng khiông đất này sẵn xa.บอกข้ามเนี่ยanh tạiบ้านmùi bọt. Bà bên đi chứ bong ôอย่างงานิ่งให้อารมณ์เนี่ยមានស្នេហាធ្វើអ្វីទីណាក៏វាចេញតែរូបបេះដូងบอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกផងរំផងភ្លេចងាកមើលមកបើកំពុងតែកាត់វែកบอกខើម៉ែអើយកំដរខាងឯងរំមុនជំរៀងគេទេគុនវិញជានៅលំនេះមិនដឹងគិតគូរស្នេហ៍កំឡុងក្នុងភូមិទៅគូនមិនវិញចឹងដែរអានើក៏គង់ភាសាម៉ែនៅក្នុងស្រវឹងផងតบอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍
Welcome to Marcel and Ahmed.
តែងាកមើលមកបើកំពុងតែកាត់វែកบอกខើពេលបោកគ្រោះដងធ្វើតែថ្ងៃនេះบอกខើវងវិញពិបាកខ្លាំងក្លាគេថានេះហើយកំឡុងស្នេហាអាចារ្យប៉ុណ្ណាក៏មិនពីបរិរដងដៃគោសាប៊ូឲ្យមានបបោកយកច្រាស់មកត្រង់ក្រវីខ្លួនគោពេលមានស្នេហាសប្បាយកូនដងអញដឹងតែតើបានគេចូលចិត្តមិនសងសើบอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกផងរំផងភ្លេចងាកមើលមកបើកំពុងតែកាត់វែកบอกខើម៉ែអើយកំដរខាងឯងរំមុនជំរៀងគេទេគុនវិញជានៅលំនេះមិនដឹងគិតគូរស្នេហ៍កំឡុងក្នុងភូមិអូគូនមិនវិញចឹងដែរអានើក៏គង់ភាសាម៉ែនៅក្នុងស្រវឹងផងត
Welcome to Marcel and Ahmed.
Amor é amor, o lance é o lance. Sequência do pente.
Welcome to Marcel and
บอก
Ahmed.
ខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกខើនឹងស្នេហ៍บอกផងរំផងភ្លេចងាកមើលមកបើកំពុងតែកាត់វែកบอกខើ
E o lance é o lance.
Eu balanço o bumbum ou você prefere que eu te beije a noite inteira? Quero dançar, eu vou descer.
vòng tôi dành cho sự lăng mờ mê. Về lúc rong chân ấy sắp khơi mong về. Tại thiên thiên tiền thì không để đi. Chồng tiền tai râm, hàng khiông đất này sẵn xa.บอกข้ามเนี่ยanh tạiบ้านmùi bọt. Bà bên đi chứ bong ôอย่างงานิ่งให้อารมณ์เนี่ยមានស្នេហាធ្វើ
lesson is how to bathe your horse in preparation for a horse show. And we have a perfect specimen here, the gray horse. Ideally, you will have cross ties that you could put your horse in, or you can tie him to a nice big post like we have this horse here, and have a wash rack. And then what you'll need for your supplies, especially when washing a gray horse, is you need a bucket, big sizable bucket that preferably you use just when you use the bucket then for water, make sure you rinse it really well. Supplies would be a nice shampoo of any kind. With the white horses, we tend to get bluing shampoo, and those are usually your purple shampoos. Here we have two examples. One is the Veteran White and Bright, and then the Quicksilver, that's special for the light colored horses. We also use Orvis, which is a large industrial type of shampoo, but for today we're using these two shampoos. You can also use a mane and tail conditioner. I'm not sure if we'll be using the conditioner today or not, and we're not going to focus on how to whiten a tail today. We'll use that in a separate video because we have a special technique for that. You'll want a big sponge, preferably a natural sponge or just a big body sponge there. And then you could use scrubbies. If you have a particularly dirty horse, you could use some sort of rubber hand glove or like a little rubber soft curry if you need it. We probably won't need it here because he doesn't have much coat. A sweat scraper for afterwards. And off we go. So we're going to first wet down your horse. And normally, well, if your horse is skittish about baths at all, you would start with the legs so scare them or get them upset before working your way. Is quite adept at bath time and enjoys it quite a bit, so we don't have any worries giving this horse a bath. But unless your horse is used to getting the horses sprayed in their faces, you might want to just stick with sponging your horse's face to clean their head. But you'll see in a minute this horse, he likes to have his head washed. And when we wet the horse down, we get every part of the body. Under their belly, on their privates, we're going to get up under their tail, between their legs. So this is this horse just got ridden, so he's getting washed down before his bath. And for horse showing, especially if you have a gray horse, but for any horse, if they haven't had a bath in a while, we'll usually bathe them early in the week of the horse show, Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll bathe them again right before the horse show, because that first bath really just gets off the top layer if they haven't been bathed in a while. Of course, gray ones might need to be bathed more often during the horse show. Some are bathed daily, some just need touch-ups in the morning. We get the mane all wet, so everything gets washed when you give it a bath. And you'll see this horse is just fine with getting his head washed. He rather quite likes it. He likes drinking it too. Not every horse can do this. So now she's going to do the mixture of her shampoo, and she'll just pour in a loop of that. I think she might even be mixing her shampoos, which is okay to do, depending on what you're doing. And what you'll find is you'll have a bucket with shampoo, but then for those trouble spots that really need whitening or cleaning, you'll find you're going to put soap directly onto the horse in order to get those spots even cleaner. So she'll fill this bucket all the way up in order to shampoo them. Okay. So make sure your sponge is clean before you start this. Then you just go fill up, and it doesn't matter where you start. Just start scrubbing away. And she will soap every part of him. Important too that you scrub the belly really well and make sure that the dirty water that's running down from the sides doesn't sit there to dry, or at least on a gray horse or lighter colored horses, you'll end up with dirt rings. So it's important to wash that dirty water off of them as it comes down their sides. Another trick, when your horses, either if they're gray or if they're a dark horse and they have white socks and stockings, even in the summer months, one trick to having really, really white stockings is to clip that part of their body. So if this horse had white stockings or markings, we might clip that part of their legs so that's really tight, because that helps the markings be a lot whiter. Of course, in the wintertime we wouldn't do that unless their whole body was clipped. Make sure you shampoo the mane. Like I said, everything gets shampooed. And you can see that sometimes after she's done soaping, she'll wring out the sponge before she puts it back in, and that's to prevent from putting filthy water into the clean soapy water that you're trying to use. Don't forget the very top of their hind end, because sometimes it's a hard place to reach, and it's a great place to hold a lot of dirt. Also remember when you're giving baths that if it's cold outside, you should use a mixture of, you should use warm water and preferably have a wash rack inside so that your horse doesn't get chilled. And if it is cold after the bath and after you've sweat scraped them off, you might need to put coolers on them as they dry to keep them from getting chilled. You might even have heat lamps in your cross ties to help them dry. Now when you're washing the tail, for the first wash you can see she's just using her sponge and she's going down and she'll be rubbing. Later she might put some soap directly in it and rub her hands just together like this. And again, we're not doing a thorough whitening one, we're just doing a plain cleaning the tail wash here. There are techniques to get white tails very, very white, which again we'll do in a separate video. And you can see there's a black stain on the back of this horse's rear. That's going to be one of those places we come back and she's going to put soap directly on it in order to scrub that out. That's actually a streak from being in a horse trailer from the rubber pads on the dividers. Make sure you get down the hind leg too. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love you. I love Nip.
He loves that. Look at how sweet that is coming through his horse.
He wants to taste her. Yeah, she can undo the halter. The halters that have clips, she can simply unclip that so that she can get under the halter for shampooing. Oh yeah, and it's grain. Oh yes. Okay, at this point, she's probably going to rinse him now and then go back with direct soap to get the legs cleaner and any of the trouble spots to brighten and get rid of some of those stains. Now, it's really important when you're rinsing that you're very, very thorough, because leaving, dried soap on a horse is going to make them itchy and uncomfortable and can cause some skin reactions, if they have any sort of sensitivity. So when you're rinsing, make sure you start at the top and work your way down. And then always double check that belly and the groin area and underneath the tail and on the tail. Very important, rinse everything. And even though that mane is sort of dried, we know there's soap in there, so she'll be sure to get it all wet, and she might run her hand through it back and forth to make sure that she's gotten everything. Sometimes as a treat you can offer the hose to your horse's mouth because they like to drink out of it. And if you don't want to get your nice halter wet, I suggest you have a halter that you use just for giving your horses baths, so you don't mind it getting wet. And then he'll get a drink as a reward. Okay, so now she's going to go back with her Quicksilver bluing shampoo, and with just her hand, she'll put shampoo in her hand and put it directly on those spots that she wants extra white. The fronts of the knees, the backs of the hocks, all the way down the legs, places where oftentimes you'll have manure stains from laying down and getting back up. So we go extra hard at those trouble spots. And in the morning, if he laid down and got dirty, then we might go over with a little damp sponge with a tiny little bit. If you can't get the horse wet, you can take a damp sponge with a drop of bluing shampoo and just sponge over the trouble spots, and they will be just fine. It comes clean very easily, if you don't have time to bathe them again in the morning. There's the trouble stain. And you can see it working its way out as she scratches into it. So now she's just, last step here is just to rinse it all off really thoroughly. All the concentrated levels of soap. And usually you'll need to run your hand over it to know when you've gotten all of the soap out, when it's on very concentrated. So next step, we haven't sweat scraped yet, but she's going to rinse the bucket out, and we'll show you a technique for getting the soap out of the sponge as well. So whether you're on gravel or concrete, concrete works best, and it helps if you don't have a muddy shoe. What I like to do with these big sponges, or any sponge, is lay it down, and then you simply fill it with water with your hose, and then you're going to step on it, and you'll see the shampoo squirt out. You can do that several times on one side, and then you'll turn it over, do it a few times on the other side, and you'll be good. There you go. Okay, next, going to sweat scrape the horse. And there's different kinds of sweat scrapers. There's your long plastic ones. We'll show you that in a second here. There's old-fashioned metal ones. There's your shedding blades, which has a smooth side to it. We're just using a plastic one. There's squeegee style that look like windshield cleaners. But the sweat scrapers only work on the body. You start at the top, work your way down, and do the belly last, because it always collects all the water. And then we like to run our hands all the way down their legs so that they don't collect water, especially down in their fetlock region, which could cause problems in certain regions of the country and irritate horses if they have scratches and so forth. So we like to get all that excess water off, and then afterwards we'll even go over them with a towel to clean them off even more. Now we don't want to put him right in his stall. Now he won't roll, but a lot of our horses will roll. Many horses will roll right after they get wet. So you can either leave your horse tied up, perhaps with some food, or you can walk them and graze them while they're drying off, especially in a nice little breeze. Of course, if it's cold out, they'll probably be tied up with coolers on in their stall, or in a cross tie, maybe with heat lamps, until they're dried off and can be let loose. If you're getting ready for a horse show, depending on the weather, we recommend after they've dried to go ahead and put a lightweight, a proper covering on them, whether it's a sheet or a blanket, to help keep them as clean as possible through the night, so the next morning you won't have much touch-up to do. Now what she's doing here is she's putting on some mane and tail conditioner, and she's just going to, you don't have to rinse mane and tail out if you don't want. You can just leave it in to help keep it conditioning. In fact, a lot of the Western people, when they're doing their horses' tails and getting them ready for tail bags, is they'll put mane and tail or a conditioner in the tail. When they braid it down, they'll leave it in, and before they put it in the bag, and it keeps the tail really nice. She's just working it in really well. Right. And that's all for our lesson on how to bathe a horse, and happy riding.